guys for joining us today. Today we are going to be discussing Kahoot and Quizizz and how you can use these two platforms with your students now during this distance learning period, but also how you can integrate it into your classroom when we get back to quote unquote normal. And so we're going to kind of go through these two platforms, talk about their similarities and differences, and how we can use them as an assessment tool, how we can use them as a checking for understanding tool. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about what is Kahoot. So Kahoot is a platform that you can use to kind of quiz, check for understanding, that type of thing. It kind of puts it into a game format. It's something that students can do together in class physically when we get to go back to actually doing that. It's also something that you can use virtually, and they can kind of do it on their own, self-paced.
So if you go to Kahoot.com, we're just going to walk you through just the steps of signing up for an account if you don't have one. So when you go to Kahoot.com, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, there's going to be a green button that says sign up. And you'll want to just click that button, and it'll take you through a course of signing up and creating your account.
So after you click on that sign up, it's going to ask you, what kind of account would you like to create? Would you like to create a teacher account, a student account, a personal account, or a professional account? So since we're all teachers, we would go ahead and we would choose teacher. If we're coming back and we've already created our account, at the bottom there where it says already have an account login, you would just click login and then you would log into your account. But if you're setting up for the first time, you would click on teacher to create your teacher account.
And then Kahoot's going to show you, of course, ways that you could pay them monthly and give them money, but you can just click on the free, continue for free plan. That's the basic plan. There are some different types of question types that we'll get into that you could have in the pro or premium, but the free has everything that you need. So then you'll want to just hit for continue for free. And every time that you log in, which I've seen this all summer, this window keeps popping up. Even though I have an account, even when I hit login and I sign in with Google, this window will keep popping up. So it's just something that you're going to have to just hit, yes, I want to continue for free.
So how do you create an interactive game in Kahoot? So once you log in, you click that you're going to use your free account. Now you're here, you're kind of presented with your dashboard. And so you can go through and you can kind of see what type of plan you have. You can see what kind of Kahoots that you've already created. You can kind of see some different new things, some different stats, those types of things. And then when you're going to want to create a new quiz, you're going to go up to the create button in the top right hand corner. And then after you click on that, it's going to say, what kind of Kahoot would you like to create? And so you're going to either create a new Kahoot, or you can create a Kahoot for a formative assessment. You can do a get to know you that kind of has some templates in there. If it has, like for example, the one where it says teach with slides, or the other one that says practice spelling with practice spelling and adjectives with puzzle, how it has like the little crown in the corner. So that's telling you that it's a premium kind of feature, and that is available with a paid account. But as you can see, you can create a new Kahoot. You can do a template for a formative assessment. Those types of things are available with the free accounts.
And then once you hit the create your own assessment, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a blank page, and we're going to take you through what all of these spots do. So the very first thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to actually give your Kahoot a title. So at the very top, let's say that this is going to be a quiz about the California missions, or a game about the California missions, or about cell structures, or plant versus animal cell. That's where you'll put the title. And then if you wanted to add more questions or look at a question bank, you'll want to go over here to the left. So we're going to get into the question bank a little later, but if you want to keep adding and creating your own questions, you'll want to hit that blue button that says add a question once you're done filling out this initial one. And then let's say that you already have something formulated in a spreadsheet. At the very bottom on the left, there's a button that says import spreadsheet. We'll get into that a little later with the different options that you have to choose from. But that is an option if you have something already created in a spreadsheet format. So spreadsheet meaning Excel or Google Sheets. And then once you type in your question at the top, you'll be able to select how you want these answer options to show up. Do you want students to do a single answer? So they select one. Or if you click that drop down, it'll actually give you a couple choices where you can have them multi-select, so they select more than one answer or just one. So those are some options for how you'd want to create that. And then in the middle, this is really nice that you get to add a visual or an image, even a video to every single question that your students get. So just by clicking in the center, it'll pop open a little box where you'll be able to upload an image or a video. And then the time limit. So this means that when the question is shown for the students, the time will start counting down. So the students have a certain amount of seconds to actually answer that question. And how Kahoot works is the faster they answer, the more points they get. And if they don't answer the question at all, you'll actually also get a notification in the reports, and we'll look at that later. But you can change the seconds that the students have, which is great because certain questions, you'll want them to have a different amount of seconds. And then the points, you have the option to change the points here for how many points they get for answering that question correct. So let's say that it's a high weighted question, or you really want them to get a lot of points for this tricky question, you can change that there as well.
And so here, when you're going through and you're creating your questions, here's the different types of questions that you can create with Kahoot. So you can do a quiz. So it gives players several answer alternatives to choose from. You can do true, false. There's also open-ended. There's puzzle. There's a poll, and then there's also slides. So it gives players more context and additional explanations. As you can see, the open-ended, the puzzle, the poll, and the slides, those all come with the premium accounts. But you can do just your typical kind of quiz and true, false with the basic account.
Pause it. So if you were to click question bank for adding another question, you're going to get two options. Well, you're going to be able to search for questions and then add them, which is super, super nice because as you can see on the right-hand side, Marshall search for California mission and answers and questions that someone has already created already showed up. You can add them to your own Kahoot that you're making by hitting the green plus button. And this saves you so much time because you can see the answer choices, you can see the questions, and you can just keep scrolling and going through all of the different questions that there are. So instead of making your own questions, you can search through the question bank.
So as you can see here, I searched, like Satara said, I searched for California missions, and it's now showing me 99 questions. So like Satara said, I can go through and I find a question I like, click on the green plus sign. Now it's added to my quiz. So I can go through, if I want to make a quiz on California missions, I can just go into the question bank, search for California missions, find, however many questions I want, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions. And then boom, now I have my quiz and I didn't have to necessarily create anything. I just used the question bank. And then it also shows you too on each question how many times that quiz was played or how many times that question was used. And so then kind of gives you an idea of how kind of quote unquote popular that type of question is.
And so this takes you through how to import a Kahoot from a spreadsheet. So Kahoot actually has their own template that you can download from them and fill out. That way you have that template. It's something that you're filling out. You're familiar with it. Or if you have a Microsoft Excel file or a Google Sheets file that has your questions in it, you can upload that directly. So if you were, when you were on that create page for the question, in the bottom left-hand corner to click import from spreadsheet, this box would come up. You can either download their template or you can just drag and drop your file or hit select file and find it in your computer or your Google Drive. And then you can import all those questions and answers into the Kahoot file.
And then kind of on the same lines of the question bank, if you wanted to discover quizzes that were already made and you wanted to kind of use somebody else's quiz that they've already created, you can go to the Discover tab. So when you're on the main page there, you're going to click on the Discover tab, and then you can search for whatever type of quiz that you're wanting to give. And so here you can type in like what type of question you wanted to give. So like in this example, Satara searched for cells, and then you can filter it down by subject, by level, and then it gives you those quizzes that are already made that you can then add to your kind of like Kahoot library, and you can use them with your students.
So once you've either created a Kahoot that you want to play with your students, or you found one through the Discover mode. Once you hit play, Kahoot's going to give you two different options of how you can actually interact with your students. One of those options is teach mode, and it says for virtual classrooms, but we'll get into the little caveat with that in a second. And the second option is assign. So we're going to look at each of these separately and talk to you about what they mean, which one is just like the classroom one, and how these actually work with your students through distance learning, and also when you get in your classroom.
So the first one is the teach mode. So this would be where you can play live together, and you can play over video, or you can play in class. So this would be the one that if you wanted to do like an impromptu kind of, whether it was an entrance ticket or an exit ticket, and everyone is, let's imagine the good old days where we were actually physically in a classroom together. You could do this live in class with your students. Everyone's sitting there, everyone's on their device, everyone's taking the quiz together at the same time. In our current state, you could do this like if you were doing like a Zoom lesson with all of your students, and you wanted to do that lesson, or that, you wanted to do that quiz together in real time all together, you would use this teach mode. So this is where everyone is taking the quiz in real time with each other all at the same time.
So once you would click the teach mode, it's going to give you two different options, classic or team mode. If you were in our brick and mortar classrooms, you could do something known as team mode, where you could have students work in groups and they would all work together. If you're trying to do this over distance learning, you're going to want to hit classic, and that's with every single student having their individual devices. And then you'll see something that says game options. So if you click game options, it's going to open up a menu of options, and we'll go through what all of those different options are.
So after you click on game options, you have some options. So you can go through and you can set friendly nickname generator. So it's going to avoid inappropriate nicknames in the game. So it's not going to allow kind of inappropriate nicknames for the kids that are creating. You can change the type of music that's being played. So if you've ever used Kahoot before, when the question is up, there's some music that's being played in the background. You can kind of change what kind of music that is. You can also randomize the order of the questions. So if you were doing this live, everybody would obviously have the same questions. But if you were doing it a little differently, you could randomize the questions. You can randomize the order of the answers, and then you can kind of minimize the intro introductions and stuff. So these are kind of some of the options that you have when you're creating your games.
And then some more options. So if you keep scrolling down, you'll see an advanced two-step join. So that's just like a two-factor authorization. You'll want to make sure you have that off, because that's just going to take more time. So it's going to send a code, and then the students have to go somewhere else to put in a different code. And then automatically move through questions. This is an option. So how Kahoot works is the teacher has to actually hit next after every single question. And why that's good and that's bad is because the students see, well, who got the most points for that question, where they are within the entire Kahoot game of itself. And so then after everyone kind of, gets super competitive, then the teacher has the option to click next. Or you can have Kahoot go ahead and automatically move through it if you don't want to have to monitor that. And then rejoin after every game. So that's where, let's say you have multiple Kahoots going back to back because you gave your students a class reward, and one of the choices that they picked was playing a Kahoot review game. So you can have it where they automatically rejoin. That way they don't have to put a code in. Because how Kahoot works is you're going to give your students a code that they put in, and if you hit rejoin after every game, they don't need that code to come back in.
So after you have all of your settings and everything all configured the way you like, you're going to be greeted with this screen. It's going to tell the students, go to www.kahootit, or if they have the Kahoot app, they can launch that. They can enter the game pin, and then you'll start seeing players populating. So you start seeing them joining, and then once you have all of your students in the Kahoot ready to go, then you would just click start, and then you would start your Kahoot quiz.
And so how this works with like this teach option is this, what you see here, this is the teacher screen. And once all your students are in, you hit start, your teacher screen will change to show the questions, even in this teach mode. On the student side, they're going to need to see your screen and also their screen as well. So you're going to have to walk your students how to split their screen. And what I mean is they don't have to have two monitors, but you want to be able to have two different windows on the screen that you're looking at. That way the students can see the screen that you're sharing over here on this side, and they can see their answer from Kahoot.it on the other side, because they'll have to be able to see both options. So it's possible during the teach game you still have to share your screen. That way they see the questions that you have, and then they answer it. And the reason why it's like that is so that there's some interaction between the teacher and the students. That way it's still like a community-based game. You're still keeping your classroom together because everybody's working together. They still have to interact with their teacher to see the questions, and then they also put in those questions by themselves. And then Kahoot's very, very competitive. So by you still being able to share your screen and everyone's in the Zoom or Google Meet meeting, everyone's seeing each other, and it gets really, really fun.
And so now we're going to transition over into talking about the assign mode and how that works. So this is for self-paced. So this is something that they would work on their own. They would play at their own place. They would play at their own pace. And then it doesn't have to be everybody doing it exactly at the same time. So maybe you are doing a lesson and you want them to do some type of review. Then you could assign it self-paced, and you could tell them, okay, you need to do this quiz by certain amount, by this date. And then they can log in and they can join and they can take the quiz anytime between like the time frame that you gave them.
So once you click the assign button for the self-paced game, this window pops up. So you're essentially assigning the challenge. So you're assigning this open window date. The date that they give you at the top is automatically filled out, so you can change it. They give you about 2 to 3 days for your students to finish it. Definitely give them a few days, or just stick with the deadline that you're giving your students. Then there are a few options. Question timer. So just like with the other version of the Kahoot game, there's a certain amount of seconds that you've assigned per question. So if you've assigned seconds, definitely keep it on. You can randomize the answer order. You can do a friendly nickname generator for this one too. So what happens is if you turn that on, it's like a little wheel of friendly names, and the students hit select, and then the wheel spins, and it'll be like, oh, Happy Bunny. And so that's their nickname. So there's pros and cons for that. You know that everyone's going to have a great nickname, but you also don't know who's who if you're looking at the results. And then the player limit, you just have a limit of up to 100. Which is the limit now. And then of course there's the whole pay us more money so that you can increase that limit, but 100 is usually
good. So after you have done your, you've set everything up, then you can go in and you can see like in real time once they start finishing their assignment and they finish this self-paced quiz, you'll start seeing like their results and everything pop up here. And then here's how you can actually share it with them. So you can either just copy the URL, and you can, if you're using something like Remind or something like that, you can send it out that way. You can post it straight to Google Classroom. So they'll see it pop up in their classroom. They can click on the link and it'll take them to the Kahoot quiz. And then you have kind of 3 views here. So you have, right now we're looking at just the summary. And then once they start playing, and then once the answers start coming in, you'll start seeing there's 3 sections at the bottom. So there's difficult questions, there's need help, and then there's didn't finish. So once they start going through, if there's a particular question that majority of the class is getting wrong, it's going to start showing up in that difficult questions section. So then you'll see, okay, here's a quick summary of, here are some questions that all my kids are kind of struggling with. So I know this is an area that I need to kind of review. The needs help, it's going to show if certain students are kind of struggling, it's going to show up there and it's going to say, okay, these students need particular help on this specific quiz. And then it's going to tell you which ones didn't finish the quiz. So that's just the summary. And then if you, let me see, I don't remember if we have this. Okay, so then here is where you can end the quiz now. So let's say you set the quiz to end on May 7th, but everybody finished already. you can just end it. You don't need to have it open anymore. If you set it for the 7th and you are realizing that your kids need more time, then you can change the deadline. You can extend it. And then like I talked about here, here's the 3 sections that you can see the difficult questions, who needs help, and who didn't finish. And then there's also 3 sections of the review here. So this is, we're on the summary right now. And then you'll see the players. So you can organize it by student, and then you can organize it by question. And then you can also go up and click on reports, and you can get reports from each quiz that you give. And we're going to take a look at that here in a second.
And I just wanted to jump in also. After you hit create for the having the students assign the mode. So if you click on assign and you're going through the Kahoot, once you hit create, after you assign like when that Kahoot's going to close, this is the window you get. So right after you hit assign and right after you hit create, it takes you to this. That way you can click on the Google Classroom to share that assignment with your students, or click on the remind to share it with your students. And then you can keep coming back to this screen by logging into your account and clicking on reports. So it'll keep showing you, and this will keep populating. So as more and more students actually go into the Kahoot and they start playing the game, the sheet is just going to be real time filling up. But there's a better word, populating. So what a report looks like is if you were to click, let's say that you close down your computer, you shut it down, the next day you come in, you log into your account, and then you click on the reports at the top, you'll see all the different Kahoots that you've ever given. And so you can click on any of them to actually see a report. So once you actually click on one of them, then so this is like a waves review one that I did a couple years ago. What Marshall had explained with the summary page, that's all right here. So right now I'm on the summary page, and you can see that I had 29 players and I had 15 questions, and I only gave them 7 minutes total. I played it live in my classroom on January 24th, 2018 at 10:16 a.m. And so it gives you all of this information. And then at the bottom where it says difficult questions, there were 3 difficult questions. And what I love about Kahoot is below those difficult questions, it actually gives me an option to create a new Kahoot only using those 3 questions. So then I can go back, I can reteach what needs to be retaught, I can see what happened, see where those gaps are, and then I can see the learning, if there was learning there, if I did a good reteaching lesson, and just create a new Kahoot just based off of those difficult questions. And then I can see that I had 1 student that needed help because he only got 20% of the questions correct. But then if I go to the didn't finish section, this is important because that same student that needed help, he also didn't answer 7 questions. So what that means is that student just sat there with his computer open and just let the countdown go and didn't answer questions. So that's also good to know. And okay, well, what's going on when we're playing this game? I have a student who's not even participating. And then I had a few students that they just missed 1 question. So maybe they were still deciding, and maybe I just didn't give enough time. So that, if I looked at all, if I went to see all, and I saw that I had multiple students that they only missed 1 question, I'm going to want to find out what that 1 question was and maybe increase the time next time, because maybe I just didn't give them enough think time.
And then if you move over to the players tab of the report, now I can go through and I can see each of my students and I can see their rank. So how they did, ranking in the class. I can see their percentage of how many they got correct. I can see if they had any unanswered questions. And then I can see what their final score was on this particular Kahoot. So if we clicked on a specific student, so this is a specific student's his individual report, and so it's going to give me his overall percentage. So overall, he got 86% correct, where they ranked in the class, how many questions they answered, what their final score was, and then I can go through each individual question and I can see what they answered. I can see what the correct answer was. I can see how much time they spent on each question, and then how many points they got on each question.
And then if you go to the questions tab, so that was just in the players tab. If you go to the questions tab, you can actually just look at the overall questions themselves. And so this is a different quiz. I had to use a more current one for the questions tab. And so this shows you the question and the answers. And if I had more than one student take this, it would show what answers my students picked. So this definitely resembles more like a Google form where it shows me overall all of my students, what answer they picked, where they were, where they fell. That way I can see, where the discrepancies were. So if they got question 1 wrong, well, what answer were they thinking it was? So that way it would help me reteach the next day, and it just helps you as a teacher guide your teaching.
Okay, so now we're going to transition into talking about Quizizz and some of the features that it has. So Quizizz is very similar to Kahoot. They're both online kind of assessment tools that you can use. They both kind of have a game feel to them and structure and whatnot. They can You can create quizzes. They're engaging for the students. It gives you real-time feedback, no grading required because it'll grade just like Kahoot. It'll grade the quiz for you. It has nice integration into Google Classroom, which we're going to talk about.
And then so once you go to Quizizz, this is what your dashboard would look like. So once you actually log in, then there's 2 options at the very top once you create your account. And you'd create your account just like you would with Kahoot. You just sign in with Google. And so you could either find a quiz that's already done, which is a great function because amazing teachers have made amazing quizzes. So definitely if it's your first time, you can use what someone else has done. Or if you already have something that you love that you have in either a Google Doc or on paper, you can transfer it to a Quizizz by clicking create a new quiz at the top.
So if I was to search for a quiz, then I could go through and I could search for like math, for example, and then I can do some filtering. So I can filter by grade level. I can say, do I want this to be an elementary quiz, a middle school quiz, a high school quiz? And then I can also filter by subjects. And then I will see all the quizzes that meet that criteria that I'm filtering by. And then the nice thing is once I click on a quiz in the middle there, the quiz itself kind of populates on the side and I can scroll through and I can see what questions are in there and I can see what that quiz is kind of about.
And so this is just pointing to what Marshall had said, where you can see the questions on the side. And it's so, so nice because then you're not constantly going through multiple tabs or trying to get back to your original window. You can click something, scroll through the questions, that's not what I want. And you still see everything that you searched for still on your screen. So you can keep going. It makes searching through what other people have done so much easier and much more streamlined. And then let's say that you find something that you like. There's an add button right there that you can click and it'll add to your bank of quizzes.
And so with Quizizz, there's 3 different ways that you can play a Quizizz quiz. So you can do live just like you can in Kahoot, and that's where either you're doing it live in person if we're in our brick and mortar classrooms, or if you are online doing like a Google Meet or a Zoom, you can do a live, everyone's doing it together. Homework mode, which would be kind of like self-paced, you assign it and they go on and they do it at a particular time, but they're not necessarily on all at the same time. And then the solo game mode would allow you to play it on your own, and so you can kind of just get a feel of what the quiz is like playing it in the kind of like the student perspective. And then you can go through and you can share this quiz. So if you find a quiz that you like and you want to share it with your PLC or you want to share it with another colleague, you can do that. You can duplicate it. So maybe, like for example, this quiz has 15 questions, but maybe I want a more kind of condensed version. Maybe it's only 5, maybe it's only 10, or maybe I want to take this quiz and kind of break it up over a week and do little chunks at a time. I can duplicate them and then I can kind of get rid of questions and can kind of customize it, and I'm not altering the original one. And then if we were in our brick and mortar classrooms and we had some students that, they just don't interact with screens very well and they need that paper pencil, like maybe it's something for an IEP, maybe it's something that's just they learn better that way, you can actually print off quizzes, a quiz on Quizizz. That's hard to say. You can print them off and then they have the physical quiz there that they can go through and they can answer it paper pencil and whatnot. So you have options of ways that you can kind of deliver these quizzes to your students.
And another thing that Quizizz has built into it is it has a report function. So this is what a report looks like. So let's say that you've given multiple quizzes from Quizizz. You can click your reports and you can see all of the different assignments that you've given your students. So for example, one of them there that says assigned was Valentine's Day. The fact that it says assigned means that you didn't play it live with your students, you gave it to them as an assignment. So for example, a homework assignment. The one under that where it says Christmas movie trivia, that was live. So that was done in class with your students. And it shows you how many total players you had and also the accuracy. So that's just the overall score that you had within that Quizizz.
And then you'll see some of them, like the third one down will say division quiz. And then it says November 1 PD Day 2019. So that is because that quiz was shared through a Google Classroom. So it's going to tell me what Google Classroom I assigned that quiz to. And then after I click on a quiz, I can actually get a breakdown of how my students did and how my class did on that particular quiz. So this one is our division quiz that we gave earlier. And so I can see accuracy, how my whole class did. I can see how my students did. So it was assigned to it was assigned to 7 students. 3 of them completed it, 4 of them did not. And then I can go through and I can get a breakdown of how each student did on this particular quiz. So I can see their accuracy, I can see their score. The nice thing that Quizizz has is there's a function here where I can view the quiz, and then I can also make flashcards from the quiz. So if I needed to use it for review, I could do that. That is something new that they just added. And then I can go through and I can kind of filter this down so I can look by player, I can look by question, I can do an overview of just kind of the whole thing. And then what's nice too with Quizizz is that I can assign questions or quizzes to particular standards. So if I'm wanting to assess a particular standard, I can assign a standard to a quiz so then I know how they're doing on that particular standard. And then I can print out this report. I can also download it. It's going to download it in like an Excel or Google Sheets format. So I can have that if I'm going to, share data with my PLC and stuff like that. I would have that information there. And then the nice thing is that I can sort these by score, but then I can also email the parents. There's a button there where it says email parents, and I can email each individual student's their parent, and then they can get their score and they can see how their student did on a particular quiz. And then when I am sorting this, I can sort by score, I can sort by accuracy, or I can sort by first name, last name. So it kind of gives you some options of ways that you can kind of sort these and ways that you can share the quiz results and ways that you can kind of see how your students are doing and how your class is doing on this particular quiz. So we just wanted to thank you guys for joining us today. Tomorrow, we are going to be talking about Gimkit and Edpuzzle and how we can use those as a checking for understanding tool. So you'll kind of notice that this week we're all kind of talking about checking for understanding tools because we know phase 3 has begun and this is a graded section of our distance learning. So these are some great tools that you can use if you need to get some type of assessment results and you need to get some type of grading and stuff and whatnot from your students. These tools that we're going to be talking about this week are going to be great ones that you guys can use. And it kind of makes it easy on your end because it'll kind of do some of the work for you. So tomorrow we're going to talk about Gimkit and Edpuzzle. We're going to talk about how we can use those as checking for understanding tools. They're both engaging platforms and whatnot, and your kids are going to love using them. So we're going to talk about those tomorrow. We want to thank you guys for joining us today, and we are now going to move in to the Q&A section of our webinar.
Okay, and then one of the questions that we have in our Q&A section is for Kahoot. can you make changes to an already made Kahoot and then save it as my own? Sometimes I just want to change the time given per question. Yes, but it's a little tricky to find. So when you actually go in the Discover and you find the quiz, the Kahoot, when you go in the Discover section of Kahoot and you find the Kahoot that you want to use, when you click on it, you'll see like a play and a share button. There's going to be 3 vertical dots. If you click on those, one of the options will be duplicate. So then you'll have to duplicate and it'll duplicate as your own. And then you'll have to go in there and edit each question individually. But yes, you can definitely make it your own. It's a little more hidden, not very easily seen like it is in Quizizz, but it's definitely an option.
And then something that we forgot to mention with Quizizz is I can go through, and how we talked about how you can go through, find quizzes that you like and you can save them. So I can go through and I can make my own quiz. And maybe, for example, let's say I'm doing a math quiz and I find 3 math quizzes that I like, but from quiz number 1, I only like questions 1 and 5. Quiz number 2, I found I like questions 3, 4, and 5. And then from quiz 3, I like questions 7 and 8, let's just say. I can go through, make my quiz, and I can just pull questions from the specific quizzes that I've saved, and I can make my own quiz from that. So you don't have to use in Quizizz, you don't have to use all the questions from a quiz that you found. You can kind of pull out certain questions that you want to use and create your own quiz.
And once you actually start going through it with Quizizz, it is so streamlined and so easy for the teacher to actually do this, because the words that they use, it's like, add this question. Yes, I do want to add this question.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas other websites, you'll go to it and instead of saying add this question, it'll say something like arbitrary, and you'll have to sit there and guess like, okay, what does this code word mean? Is this what I want to press? And it's just very simple and easy with Quizizz.
And then another nice thing with Quizizz is that it integrates nicely with Google Classroom. So when I assign a quiz into Google Classroom, I can set it up where the score that they got on their quizzes gets imported into Google Classroom, and they get that grade in Google Classroom. And then if I have my Google Classroom and Aries connected, I can take that grade, put it into my Aries gradebook. And so now I don't have to do anything. I let the computer and the programs do all the work for me. So that's another thing that we forgot to mention, that it does have nice integration into Google Classroom. Let's see. Is Kahoot offering free premium upgrades due to school closures? So on our screenshots at the bottom, it did say like they are offering, like during this COVID-19 time, they are offering like free upgrades. So that is an option for you guys. I did see that on there.
Yeah, just don't get too attached, because right when everything is there, and my only fear is like using the free version now, and then when COVID-19 is over and like come August, everything that you've made with those premium versions, you won't have access to it unless you actually pay the fee. So don't put too much time into creating amazing materials using premium features, because we don't know what's going to happen with that when your account goes back to a basic plan. So I just want to put that bit of warning out there.
Yeah. And I'm sure we all saw Dana's email last week and what the budget's going to look like. So it looks like things are going to be a little bit on the tighter end. So, being able to pay for Kahoot and those types of things, I don't know if that's what that's going to look like. So like Satara said, I would hate for you guys to use, the fact that they offer free premium plans right now is great, but I would hate for you guys to go through, make all these quizzes, and then when those features are taken away because now they're going to downgrade you to the free plan, I would hate for it to be where, okay, I can't even access any of these quizzes because they're made with the premium features. So that's why we kind of didn't really hit on that too much, but we just wanted to kind of explain why.
Another question is, does
Kahoot
have a
feature that allows for unlimited quizzes? I'm not sure.
Untimed.
Is that what that is? Unlimited? Maybe. Untimed. It'd probably help if I could read. I swear, I know how to.
Untimed quizzes. I don't know. Let me see. Let
Yeah.
me see if it'll let me not put a time on it, because the whole thing is because then the student would just stick on that one question. So how Kahoot technically works is the faster you answer the question, the more points you get. So if it didn't time at all, then I don't know how the points would work. Then everyone would kind of get first place. So let me look into that while Marshall keeps going with the other questions.
Okay. Another question was, can you explain how to import quizzes we have previously created on a Word doc? Do they need to be a Google Doc? Okay, so I am going to actually share my screen so we can kind of walk through this process together. So I signed into my Quizizz account here, and move this over here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I have my dashboard here, and I'm going to create a new quiz. I can do that here, or I also can do create a new quiz here. So I'm going to say create a new quiz, and then it's going to ask me to give it a name. So I'm just going to call this a demo quiz. And we're going to say for the subject area, we're just going to call it professional development. I'm going to say next. And then so here I have my choices. So I can say I want to do multiple choice, I want to do checkbox, I want to do fill in the blank, I want to do open-ended, I want to do a poll. So I can kind of use these as a template. I can also come over here and I can import from a spreadsheet. So it's just like with Kahoot, you would be importing from a spreadsheet. So I can click import from spreadsheet, and then here I can either drag that file into here, or I can click here and I can search for the file. I can also download their template and I can fill out the questions and answer choices and stuff on their template, and then I can just import that into here, and then it's just going to go through and it's going to populate all those questions that I've already created. So you can see here, these are nice. You can see you have multiple choice, you have checkbox, you have fill in the blank, you have poll, you have open-ended. These are all options for you to create question types.
Marshall, what does that template look like?
Oops.
I'm so sorry because you just stopped sharing.
No, it's okay. Let's check it out and let's see. So if I wanted to,
I want to see how easy it would be if you have something in like a Google Docs or Word to copy it into their template and fill it out.
So I clicked on download template, and as you can see, it downloaded here. It downloaded it as an Excel file. So I'm going to open that. And let's see, from my memory, I believe it's pretty basic, but where'd it go? Oh, it's over here. Okay. Do you guys see the spreadsheet now?
No.
No. It's probably because, let me share.
I think you're only sharing that one window. Yeah.
There we go.
Cool. See it.
Okay. So now it when you download the template, it gives you some like examples. So it's going to tell you, type in the question. So you're going to type in your questions here. You're going to type in what type of question. So do you want it to be multiple choice? Do you want it to be checkbox? Do you want it to be fill in the blank or open-ended? Or do you want it to be a poll? And then I would go through and I would give my answer choices here. So however many options. So you can have up to 5 options. And then here I would type in what the correct answer is. And it also tells you, leave it blank. If you're doing an open-ended question, leave this blank. If you're going to do fill in the blank, obviously leave it blank as well. And then you can say here, how much time do you want? So do you want it to be 20 seconds, 45 seconds, 60 seconds, 100, like how much time in seconds do you want to do? And then if you have any type of image that you want to link to that specific question. So for example, this one here, it says, which of these is the largest planet in the solar system? Maybe you want to actually have a picture of the solar system here. You can put a link to an image here, so then they see that image and then they can go through and they can choose their answer choices. Or if you're doing, some type of like cell quiz and you can ask them, where is this particular part of the cell? You can link to a specific picture or an image that goes along with that quiz or with that particular question. So all you'd have to do is you can just delete these and then you can add in your own questions. But it's nice that they give you kind of a template and they kind of show you this is how you would fill it out.
Okay. And then going back to the question before, does Kahoot have a feature that allows untimed quizzes? It does not, but each question you can increase the time limit to 240 seconds. So that's the maximum amount of time you can give per question, but it does not allow for untimed quizzes. And I have a feeling it's just because of how it's programmed, because students get points. And so the faster you answer a question, the more points you get.
So that would be what, 4 minutes on each question? Right. 6 times 4, 24?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they can have up to 4 minutes on a question. Okay, so we answered those two.
And then another question says, I came in late, you may have answered this already, but would you say that Kahoot is better as a class assessment activity and Quizizz is better as an individual assessment activity? Both do appear to give excellent data to check for understanding.
So I'm going to give I'm going to say unbiased, but it isn't, it's biased opinion. I personally like Quizizz better. And the only reason Kahoot's fine. Kahoot, tons of people love using Kahoot. It's a perfectly fine platform. I think they both, so first to answer your question, I think they're both good for a class assessment. I think they both do a great job, whether you're doing it in person or whether you're doing it on the kids are doing it on their own. Kahoot has made some upgrades. So they've made the kind of self-paced a little better, in my opinion, where in the past it wasn't as good. Or I'm trying to think, was that even an option to do self-paced? I don't remember. So they've added that, which is good. And what I like about Quizizz is when you're doing a Kahoot and we're doing it live in class together, the question is up on the teacher screen and then my answer choices are on my screen. So I have to go look up at the screen, look at my screen, try to figure out which one I want to do. With Quizizz, everything's on my screen. So the question's on my screen, my answer choices are on my screen, so I just have to look at one screen. So me personally, I have an issue, or it's harder for me to go visually to go back and forth. I like it better with just everything in one spot, but there's tons of people who use Kahoots all the time, and maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only person that has that issue, but that's my reason why I like Quizizz. I also like Quizizz because it's free. And I have all the features that I want to use, and I don't have to worry about them going away or anything like that. So those are the reasons why I like Quizizz.
For me versus like Kahoot and Quizizz, I was a super huge Kahoot fan. Like I love Kahoot, but now since they want money, the pop-up comes up every single time. So even if you go in the editing question, there's a pop-up to upgrade. And then when you click on something else, there's a pop-up to upgrade. So then you have to click the correct button in order to make sure that you don't go to the upgrade screen. As far as the data they give you, they both give you amazing data. That way it can guide your instruction, because it's all about what kind of data do we get as teachers to guide our instruction. But then with what Marshall was saying with Kahoot, if you're doing it live in class, like on your projector screen, you have the question, you have the answer choices. On the student screen, all they see is like triangles and colors. And for some of our IEP 504 kids, they cannot do that because it stresses them out and it's too much going back and forth. Or even just our normal students where they're like, okay, that's the answer, but it's not A, it's a triangle, but it's red. And then they go. And then the next question, the triangle will be blue. So they have to really kind of pay attention, and you're not testing them on triangles and shapes, but it ends up being almost like a test with triangles and shapes. And then with the younger grades, when you're already working on colors and you're working on shapes, that adds another level to it that it shouldn't be there. So it really depends on what works for you. And then I would say go into both of them, and whichever one you as a teacher feel more comfortable with, just because by the reports, they give us amazing reports as teachers that all of this is for check for understanding. This entire week is a CFU week where all of these tools we're going to be sharing is all to guide your instruction as a teacher, because our end goal is to make sure our students learn and they understand. but they can't learn and understand if they're not engaged. So pick what they like and also pick what you can work with the best. So try them both out, see what you like, but then take a poll from your students. Maybe they like Quizizz better. Maybe they like Kahoot better, because the more engaged they are, the more learning will take place.
Yeah.
So I didn't give you an answer.
No,
so.
Neither one of us did. They both have their, like we said, they both have their pros and cons. You just kind of have to see what's going to work best for you. I've been in classes where we've used Kahoots, and they love the music, they love the competitiveness. I've also been in classes where we use Quizizz. They also have like little meme integrations. So whether you get it right or wrong, they love the memes. They love the leaderboards. They both have leaderboards. So it just kind of depends on the group. It kind of depends on the grade level. It depends on you, and depends on your comfort level, your student's comfort level. So it just kind of depends. Both are good.
I know along the same line, like which one has the better test bank, that would definitely depend on subject. As like a secondary science teacher, depending on the specific questions, I almost always have to create my own, because someone's not getting to the specific question types that I want. Like I want to talk about crossing over and meiosis, and I can't find a question that has the perfect picture that I want. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think they both have good test banks and good question banks, because they're both highly used. So there's going to be a lot of quizzes out there, but it's just with either platform, you're going to have to take some time and go through the quizzes to make sure that they're what you want, just because there's a lot of quizzes out there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are quality.
So if all you're doing though is going through the question bank and getting questions, or going through the quizzes and choosing what you want, I'd say Quizizz, just for the fact that the search is right there, and then you could go through all of them right next to it, and it's going to save you time. And then also you can add 5 different quizzes into your, account, and then pull from what you want. It's much easier. So if that's what you're going for, then I would say Quizizz, just for this, have the ease of it, the ease to be doing that. What do you think, Marshall?
Yeah, I think the layout is nicer. The fact that I can just kind of click through quizzes, I can quickly see, get a little preview of what the quiz is like. It makes searching through the test bank a little easier. And then I do like the fact that, okay, I'm giving a quiz. I find 4 different quizzes that I like, and I can just go through and pull different questions from those quizzes and create my own quiz. So yeah, if you're just purely going off of the test bank, I think they both have good test banks, but just the way that they're presented, I would say that Quizizz is probably laid out a little easier to find the content, and just so you're not having to kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, and I don't know if Kahoot, if you can add individual questions. I should know that, but I don't know why my brain is blanking.
Next question was, I have many quizzes on Word docs. Would I need to convert these to spreadsheet first, or does Quizizz do the converting? No, so you're going to have to convert it over to a spreadsheet first, and you're going to have to kind of put it into their format. And then once they're in the spreadsheet, then you can upload it into Quizizz, which it is a little work to do, but it's like if you already have it typed up, just copy and paste the questions and stuff over into a spreadsheet. It is a little work on your end, but the nice thing is it is digital. So you do it one time and then you have it. You don't have to keep redoing it.
And everything works via spreadsheet. So not just Quizizz and Kahoot, but even Google Forms. Like every program out there, if you're uploading information, you always upload it via spreadsheet. Even Aries, when we download information, it downloads via spreadsheet, just because that's how it's easiest to program and to pull information, and every column has a specific designation. So that, like, if you put it in a spreadsheet once, you will always be able to upload it to anything that you need, just because it's in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, spreadsheet's kind of like the universal language that all like programs can speak. So this question was not necessarily on Kahoot or Quizizz, which is totally fine. It says, do you think the district will keep the longer recording time plan for Screencastify after the end of May? I'm not sure. I haven't heard any discussions about that. I know that people are using it, but I'm not sure if we're going to keep that afterwards. I guess it just kind of depends on what pricing and stuff looks like, but I haven't heard any discussions about that.
But is that talking about how Screencastify's like just with the normal account? Because isn't that on Screencastify's end, not our end?
I think the longer time is like with a paid account. So like right
With
now
the
they're
paid,
giving the
oh,
free premium accounts. I believe that's what that is connected to. So it's kind
okay.
of like
I
it's
thought it
kind
was
of
like a COVID-19 thing. Because then if it's like a COVID-19 where Screencastify is giving longer recording time,
yeah,
then we have no control.
right. We would then have to probably pay for
Pay for it.
if we were
Yeah.
gonna if they were gonna keep it.
And then I just looked this up with Kahoot. I'm not finding a way that I can just add individual questions. So I have to either use someone else's Kahoot, but I can't like chop it up. Like I can duplicate it and create my own, and then I can go through, and it's a roundabout way of deleting the questions and then adding more. But I can't just go to like a question bank, like Quizizz has a question bank. So Kahoot has a Kahoot bank, but a Kahoot is the entire assessment essentially. And so I can pull those assessments, but Quizizz has a quiz bank and a question bank that you can pull from.
Yeah. So after you go through and save quizzes, then you can go through when you're creating a quiz, you can pull from all those questions within those quizzes and you can create your own quiz from those specific questions. How many keywords can you get in a sentence?
Right. And then just remember, so Michelle, I'm so excited that you're going to use Kahoot with Zoom tomorrow. And just, you're going to have to show your kids how to do like split screen. So essentially how to have a window on half and the other window on the other half. So if they're on their Chromebooks, if they click on a window and then hit Alt and then the bracket button, then that'll move one window over to one side and then Alt and the other bracket button. So I'll type it in the chat. That way you know what bracket button I'm talking about.
Yep.
Alt and then this button. And on the Chromebook, it'll automatically like move those windows over for them. They just have to click on the individual windows, but that's going to be so much fun.
Yes. Okay. Great questions today. I mean, every day there's good questions, but today was good questions. Does anybody have any other questions for us today? All right. If you come up with any questions in the future that you would like to ask, go ahead and feel free to email Satara and I, and we'd be happy to answer those questions for you. We hope you guys have a great day today, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. We'll see you back here tomorrow for GimKit and Edpuzzle.
Bye.